we thought it would be good to get our dear friend, Professor Jonathan Sackier, to host it for us, because only he can do it, as our easy for me to say, podcast host. I was first introduced to Jonathan, slow down. I was first introduced to Jonathan by Tony Young, Professor Tony Young. For those that you don't know him, he's the head of innovations for the NHS, and when he tells you to meet someone, you meet them. And I'm very glad I did meet Jonathan. We met in a bar in a hotel in King's Cross. It was slightly grander than it sounds. I'd been out for a steak bet the night before with some of the sales guys, having lost, and was a little bit delicate, and knew I needed to be on the top of my game, but I'm very glad that I did go and meet him. We had a great chat. I realised straight away that I was going to get on with him until he told me he was a Spurs fan, which caused a bit of a problem. But we had a great time. It's not often that I meet, it's not often, it is often that I meet people that have achieved more than me, and Jonathan certainly has. He learned to fly a plane before he could drive a car. He qualified as a surgeon. He pretty much invented robotic surgery. The list goes on. But it is rarer that I meet people that are more ambitious than me, but Jonathan's that as well. He's been a real help to me and Dan over the years. He's taken me to Miami, to New York, to Israel, to meet various different people, the likes of Amir Dossel, who's the CEO of the United Nations Foundation. And we've got some really good projects on the back of all of those meetings. I've met astronauts, all sorts. You name them, Jonathan knows them. He's helped host our podcasts, our webinars, and he's generally helped improve the business over the years. But more important than that, to me, he's been a real friend and a confidant, and he's constantly looking out for me and looking after me. He's even pestering me this morning because I was in A&E on Tuesday afternoon and he wants me to go back for something else. He's always looking out for me. But please welcome to the stage Professor Jonathan Sackier.
Thanks, Spencer. I have to say, hearing about myself, it's right up there with buying shoes or going to the dentist, but thank you very much for that. And can you leave out the King's Cross part of it?
Yeah, I thought you'd like that.
Meeting people in King's Cross. How are you all doing? Great. I brought something to put on the table here. What's that?
Purple unicorn.
What does that mean?
Means we're going to be £1 billion business, Jonathan.
There you go. So that was given to me by the son of the CFO of a company I work with that was very, very successful. And I always kept it there because just remember there's a sharp, pointy thing. You've got to know what success looks like. So hopefully we're going to have some fun here. And just like you always start your meetings, what's the purpose? The purpose is to get inside the minds of EMJ founders Spencer and Dan. And hopefully to induce some enthusiasm, some optimism, and a sense of belonging. I already think very, very highly of this company. By the way, just to let you know, I was invited to this event, and then I was uninvited. I was said, this is only for the employees. And as I was uninvited, I accepted an invitation to dine at the House of Lords this lunchtime by Lord Tony Grabiner. To meet a select group of the House of Lords, and I turned him down when I was re-invited. So that's how highly I think of you guys. Many of you do know me, some of you who don't. I bet you didn't know that when I was a kid, which is a long time ago, Sean Connery played the role.
Even further ago than Dame Kelly, isn't it?
It's a funny buzzing noise in my ear. When Sean Connery stopped playing the role of James Bond, I thought it'd be a good idea to write to Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman and offer myself up. Why are you bloody laughing? Apparently they weren't looking for a short Jew to play the role, but I love the whole world of Ian Fleming and James Bond. And I think we're going to have a bit of fun throughout this, because I know we don't want to stress their brains or yours. I'm going to do an ad hoc quiz. I'm going to ask some James Bond questions, see how much you know. Yes?
What's the James Bond theme?
I have no idea. He just said that's what was happening. Why the Bond theme?
Why not? Different.
So,
Or is it later? You'll find
I'm going to ask questions, and I want this to be interactive. You don't need to stick your hand up. Just shout out an answer if you know it. No asking the Google, right? Honesty and integrity. I don't see Boris Johnson in here, so we should be good to go. As Spence said, I trained as a surgeon. I sort of fell into business because I developed a bunch of technologies that other companies had brought to market. And I guess because I'm British and a surgeon, I'm arrogant enough to think that I could do it. So I started some companies. And along the way, I learned a lot of key lessons. And, you know, there were some successes. We took 3 companies public. We sold 6. We licensed a bunch of things, did M&A type activity. But I learned some key lessons. I learned by making mistakes. And I have 5 rules. My 5 rules, Spence knows, Dan knows, no arseholes.
Doesn't always stick to that one, as you can see.
And for someone who was a colorectal surgeon, you know, it was a professional risk. Number 2, learn something new every single day. Challenge your brain. It's a muscle, effectively. Use it or lose it. 3 is laugh. Because if you're laughing and you're having fun, you'll never work a day in your life. I've never worked a day in my life. Number 4, leave the world a better place. Do something that matters, right, to you and to the world. Number 5, failure is not an option. If you hit a brick wall, take a few steps back, work out the way around it or over it. When I met these 2, I realized they were kindred spirits, and they have their rules, and we're going to dig into that. I also want to get into what success looks like. Because a lot of people talk about success having millions of pounds in the bank or a big yacht or whatever. I know that living life by values, not money, is the way to go. And it's easy to say if you've got money, right? Actually, it is, but it would be much better if people learned that at an earlier stage in their life. And I think if I do want to take questions, I do want this to be interactive. If you're too shy to ask a question, you can write it on a card, and someone will pick them up, bring them up.
There's index cards on your tables.
Right. But if one person only responds, we're going to adhere to the Chatham House rule, right, and not ascribe something if you're shy. But if only one person gives a card up, it's blindingly obvious who it was. I think that we'll start with, let's start with a question. Who was the first actor to appear on the big screen as James Bond? Wrong.
Oh, I'd have said that.
David Niven was in the remake, the first effort to make Casino Royale as a joke film, but that was 1967. No, George Lazenby was in... No, most people would say, who said that? Oh, there you go. So, yeah. No. Sean Connery played James Bond, but the first thing you see is the guy walking sideways through a gun barrel. And then he turns and shoots, and the screen goes red. When they realized they came up with the idea to do that, Sean Connery was off doing something else, so they used the stuntman, Bob Simmons. So for the first 3 movies, that isn't Sean Connery, that's Bob Simmons. So you can dine out on that. So let's start at the very beginning, guys. Spencer, you start. Before you started this business, you started another. Tell us briefly what that was, good and bad.
Well, it was very similar. Well, actually, I had 2 businesses. So I owned a company, I set up a company called Absolute Media Group. Part of it was healthcare, and part of it was sports. I brought on board a business partner, and we went 50-50 after about 6 months. We then took some investment from some high net worth individuals, and we were doing pretty much what EMJ does, but we, as well as Europe, we did it in the US, and that's where Dan joined me. But what I soon realised, so one of the bad, if you want to put it, is that my business partner was not aligned with me in terms of values. So he wanted a nice, easy life. I wanted to conquer the world. Every decision we made was at loggerheads. So it got really tricky trying to run a business like that. The good thing was, it was the first time I'd ever run my own business. So we had our first ever office. Dan often still talks about the times when if it was someone's birthday, we'd go to the pub at lunch and not go back to the office. And you can do things like that when it's your own business and there's only 5 or 6 of you in the company. But you live by the sword and you die by the sword. So you're making decisions every day that impact the business. So it was a real good buzz. We did it. It still runs now, that business. I still own 40% of that business. But I parted ways after about 5 years. I got to the point where the decision making was impossible. So I sort of gave my business partner a bit of an ultimatum. It was over a long period of time. But I said, look, sell me your shares, buy mine, or I resign as a director. Me and Dan had been talking when because we used to go to all of the congresses.
How did the two of you meet?
I used to work with him. So I worked at a previous company doing publishing, and he worked in editorial, I worked in sales, and we thought we were probably naive enough to think, well, I can sell, he can publish, how hard can it be to run a business?
So, sorry to interrupt your flow, but, we know it romantically. You meet someone and there's an immediate attraction, whether it's pheromones or whatever the hell it is.
Where are you going with this, Jonathan?
We went to a lot of congress. And,
Things happen at Congress and...
Away somewhere, right? King's Cross. What was it that attracted you to each other? It wasn't you can do publishing, he can do sales. What was it?
he was a nice guy.
He's asking about Nigel, just to be clear.
Yeah.
I think you're asking about Nigel.
Not you.
Yeah, just to be clear. We're not talking about me and you today.
No, he was a guy I'd worked with for probably 6-7 years. We'd go to the pub on a Friday, get on really well. He was from Liverpool, so we had a connection there. And we just got on. We got on outside of work. We got on very well. And actually, in the office, I'd never worked directly with him.
It's interesting, Spence. You talked about your business partner not being aligned, and that you've learned from that you ask key questions, right, early on. But I had an experience of someone, after many years, discovering they weren't who I thought they were. How do you go through the process? Dan, how do you go through the process when you meet someone, employ someone, bring someone into the organisation and work out, we're aligned?
Well, now we do the values interview. But going back to...
Yeah, keep it at this point.
At this point, we weren't doing it as well as we could have been. Yeah, I think, if you go back to when I met Spencer, we did a short interview in a cafe. I think we're probably in there for 45 minutes, but the thing that I remember from that was two things. One, I remember the ambition and Spencer talking about what we could do and how much we could achieve and how he wanted to take this small little, I think it was 5 or 6 people there, all the way through. And that excited me because I'd been working at part of the Informer group for 2-3 years, and it was like slow, steady, stable, little bit of growth. And a lot of people can deal with that, but it didn't excite me. But meeting Spencer through that and thinking about him talking about how his ambitions were, I immediately felt comfortable. It felt inspiring, and it was something that I thought, actually, I want to be part of this. So I got involved straight away. I think he was looking for a sales guy. He was looking for lots of sales guys, and it's hard to find them. But immediately when I started there, I thought there's a real clear split down the middle here. There's a group who want to take this onto big things, and there's a few who just want the comfortable life, who just want to carry on doing things. I mean, to give you some context, I think for the years I was there, we were bringing in about 300-400K a year as a business. And I mean, we can do that in a day here. On a good day, we can do that in a day. So it shows the scale and the level of ambition. But that was definitely, I think, the big learning from that point is we didn't know yet at that point why we didn't know consciously about the values at that stage. But
we're going to come on to the values. I want to focus on the origin, that aha moment that this is going to become EMJ. It may not have been the name, but what was that aha moment?
Well, the aha moment for the business was I'd worked in publishing, selling in publishing for about 4 years. I'd gone and worked at an exhibition company for a year, and then I'd gone back to publishing. And what we did at the publishing company was we published about 80 journals a year, throughout the year, just whenever it suited us. And then I went and worked at an exhibition company, and we had an event every 2 years. In fact, Justin knows it, he used to work for a competitor. called Interbuild, and we had 90,000 people register their interest for this event at the NEC that went on for a week, but only 45,000 people would turn up. And I just thought, well, you know, we're doing marketing beforehand, we're doing marketing while it's going on, we don't do any marketing for 18 months afterwards. So all those people that attended, all those people that registered that didn't attend, couldn't find out what was going on. They couldn't keep up to date with what was going on. And I thought we were missing a trick. And then I went back to the publishing company, and you know, aging myself here, this was when we still had CD-ROMs on the front cover, and ebooks were just coming out. And I thought there was an opportunity for us to publish ebooks a month after the Congress, and go around the Congress and just say, look, there's loads of people that aren't here that you want to meet. We're going to send this journal to them, and it's going to cover everything that's going on, all the breaking news, the clinical trials, and you can have an advert in it for £1,000. That was my original idea. And I thought there's 100 companies, that's £100,000. It's an ebook, there's no cost.
But it wasn't the money, it was the idea.
The idea, yeah.
Right? That's what got...
And I pitched that to the chairman of the board at the company, and his exact words were, I had the whole board of directors in there, and he said, great idea, but we're not looking for new ideas. And he wound that business down about 2 years later, and I left that meeting, and within a month I'd resigned.
Anyone ski here? Or do outdoor activities? Yeah, by the way, I can't see that. Yes, now that I can see. So do any of you wear Gore-Tex? You know what Gore-Tex is, right? Gore-Tex, yeah. Gore-Tex was invented by a guy named Bill Gore, who I knew, who worked for 3M. And he had been charged to develop a material as a new insulator. And he came along and said, it's an okay insulator, but it does this, 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 and this. And 3M went, yeah, no, we want a new insulator. So he said, well, can I have the IP of this? Sure, knock yourself out. Well, okay.
He enjoyed it.
Bill Gore built W.L. Gore into a massive multinational global, all based on exactly the same thing. Yeah, we're not interested in that. We're not interested in new ideas. So let's ask a Bond question. A Bond film that wasn't a book, but a house. It's connected to a can of soup, Grace Jones, who was also, by the way, in a Bond film, Roxy Music, and U2. Anyone? It wasn't a book, it is a house, but there's no connection to a can of soup. Very good, though. You just said.
Skyfall?
I'm sorry, is there an echo in here? Anyone? GoldenEye. GoldenEye was the name of Ian Fleming's house in Jamaica. And it was eventually bought by the son of a Jamaican lady whose name is Chris Blackwell. He is part of the Cross and Blackwell family. And Chris Blackwell started Island Records, who signed bands like U2, Roxy Music, Grace Jones, and by the way, Bob Marley. So anyway, we've talked a little bit about the origin story. Both of you, I want you to take turns. What took you into this type of business rather than something else? You're a sales guy, I don't know how you describe yourself. How would you describe yourself? A lug, basically.
I don't describe myself. I let other people do that.
What took you into this?
Dan, go on, you go.
You talking about EMJ?
Yeah, well, why, did you have any background in healthcare? Did you have someone in your family who'd been very sick and you were motivated? What took you into the healthcare environment? Neither of you have that as your background, right?
No. Well, I've got, before I met Spencer, I had 3 years working in pharmaceutical intelligence. Used to sell into big pharmaceutical, well, I say big pharmaceutical companies. I was one of the junior sales guys, so I sold into the terrible, worst, failing biotech companies who had about £1,000 to spend on not very good intelligence. But anyway, so I had a bit of backgrounds. I got told very early on that healthcare is pretty recession-proof because, unfortunately, people will always get sick and will always need to be treated for things. And, of course, without going into details, there's obviously been lots of stories, I'm sure, that we're all affected by where our family and friends get sick and you think, well, actually, I'm interested in this. There's more than just can I sell an advert to Pfizer on the last day of the month to get us over target. There's a lot more to that. So there was that side, but I think a lot of EMJ specifically was a lot to do with opportunity. It was a lot to do with scale. And the big story I always sort of emphasise is sitting on a beanbag in Stockholm with Spencer. He was on a separate beanbag, just for clarity. And we were just talking and going, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this. This is so exciting.
This was about 4 in the morning after a day at the Congress. The ideas were
just literally buzzing, and there was no control of them, and we were just flying through these ideas.
Was this? Just
this would have been 2011,
something like that.
maybe beginning of 2012, yeah. And it just literally just off, we were like, do this, and we were buzzing. And after whatever day it came back, we got back to the office, and Spenny went off and he met the other guy, and the guy just went, no. And the two of us were just like, oh, what is this? This is like, we were so deflated. And I think it was that moment I went and put words in your mouth where someone made a decision to set up EMJ. But that was the excitement journey. I was like, we can do so much here. And I won't go too much into where we are now, but it was that excitement.
So it's the joy of innovation.
The joy of innovation, the joy of working with good people, but it's the joy of taking advantage of opportunities. You only got one chance to have a career.
Actually, you only have one chance to do everything, right?
Yeah.
There'll never be another, whatever today's date is, 23rd of June, 2023. It's like, seize it now, carpe diem and all that.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of what floats your boat, I know, is the new shiny toy. Yeah. And you often criticise yourself for that, and I've never understood why, because that's who you are.
We talked at the start, you've got to have that focus and the process and following that, which is how you grow a business, but you need the shiny toys. So yeah, I get very distracted by shiny toys and don't focus on the day-to-day sometimes. But
I'd challenge that thinking, though, surely, because, I think it was, who was it? I think it was Andy Sleep, when we had that first get-together at Stoke Park. Yeah. And there's a Bond connection there as well, of course. Game of Goldfinger. Yeah. Golf at the beginning of Goldfinger. I think it was Andy who said, when you start a business, it's because you're doing something you know or something you love, or preferably both. But running a business has got nothing to do with that. Is it correct?
Yeah.
So how do you reconcile those two things?
I think it's a balance. I think you've got to be a bit of a jack of all trades running a business. For me, going back to your last question, why did I get into this? I found out about 3 years ago I was dyslexic, but I sort of knew when I was a kid that my brain didn't work the way that most people's brains worked, and I struggled with traditional schooling and doing things the way that most people did it. I left school after a year of A-levels, then went back after working in a pub for 6 months, then insurance brokers for 6 months. Went back and did my A-levels, got a bit bored of that by the end. Then somehow, I didn't get the grades to get into university, but I'd had an interview and they took me into UCL. I failed my second year, I failed my degree. So I just didn't like doing things the traditional way. And I think that's still now running a business. I know you've got to do the traditional way for most people, but you've also got to do things differently to innovate and create. So it's getting that balance between the two. And everyone's different, and you've got to do what works for them.
But again, isn't it? Yeah, you can learn new skills, new talents. But do you think that we're all at the core who we are?
What do you mean by that?
Well, so again, you flagellate yourself. He does. I mean, not literally. Metaphorically, flagellates himself about the bright, shiny object. But the reason you're here is because you were attracted by bright, shiny objects.
Just Dan's laughing there is because when we were prepping for this, I said Jonathan's going to use loads of long words that I don't understand again, and we were wondering how long it would be before they started.
And I thought you'd be more laconic today, but you're not. Sorry, just for context, you used that in a meeting the other day. I had to Google it. I don't know what that means. But I've used it now, so
to
that makes
whip
me smart.
yourself
Thank
like
you.
a flagellum.
I still don't get it. Sorry, what was the question? I'm distracted completely now.
Any of you want to jump in?
Yeah, who's got questions? Help me, save me.
Talk to the concept. Do you think we are who we are? Or you can learn new talents, but does that fundamentally change who we are?
When you think of when you started the business back then, did you imagine now in 2023 that we'd be here? Or how many times did your vision change
The route has definitely changed. I think the destination, probably from very, very early on in the first business, was the opportunity here is huge, multi-billion-pound opportunity. The question we often asked ourselves is, how do we do that? How are we actually going to achieve that? Because the opportunity's there, we've now got to take the opportunity. And the shiny toys, if the quickest route is from there to there, the shiny toys are the bits that go off all over the side. So you're taking a detour. If you're going from London to Aberdeen, the quickest way is straight up the motorway or whatever. But we see something over in Wales and then somewhere over in Norfolk, and we go all over. We still want to do it really fast. We don't want to take a leisurely drive around. We want to do it in a Ferrari with the roof down and still get there really quickly, but having fun on the way. And so that vision has changed numerous times. You meet people like Jonathan and he'll say, have you thought about doing this? Or you meet someone else and they say, have you thought about that? And because there's so many opportunities, it's very hard to stay focused on the quickest route because you don't want to miss out.
But you want to be careful that you don't become 3M and turn down what not only was a massive business opportunity, but probably, I know the Gore family have great fun in the process, right? So that's a key thing for you to do it, certainly at this inflection point. Someone taught me there's like the rule of 1 and 3. When you're a single shingle operator and then you employ 2 people, there's now 3 of you. That's an inflection point. Then 10, then 30, then 100, then 300, then 1,000. All these inflection points. How do you retain what you are? And I'm going to come on to that because that's critical. But I know Mr. Moore had his hand up.
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Healy. Now, Spencer's got the attention span of a kid on ADHD.
Who's
You've lost him already.
Who's that talking over there?
And you've gone on this journey with him. But why did you trust him?
Who said he trusts me?
Yeah, I didn't trust him. No, I'm joking. I think it was the energy. It was the energy and the fact that it took me a while. Like, I'd gone from corporate life where you go, this. He kept jumping 10 steps. So he was always like, there was 5 of us, I think, in an office, and we were publishing a few journals, and we didn't have a great engagement, and we had a couple of big companies working with us, but small. But he was constantly, weekly, talking about being one of the best companies to work for, and being on the Sunday Times growth list, and being this and being that. And it was constant, because he was talking about it, it'd get you excited. And then I'd suddenly have that capacity on the phone, and I'd have that energy on the phone. And I remember, I think the first 3 deals I booked in, they were from like sort of tin pot companies who just went, I'm not working with big boys, I can't afford it, we'll work with you. And then suddenly MSD came on board. And I had a really, really big month. And I was like, why are Merck, one of the top 10 companies in the world, working with us? We're only like 5 of us in a small office in Broome Street. So then that gave me a bit of realization, and he kept waffling on. And then another thing would happen.
He still does.
He does, I can't stop him. But you can zone it out after 10, 12 years working together. But
You're
another
asking
thing
what my
happened.
job title was earlier, it's the waffler.
Yeah, but it was all of these little moments that I thought, well, actually, we are at that point. And when I look back now, a load of the stuff he's been waffling on for the last 10 years, we've reached. And some points we've gone further, some points we haven't got to. And I sort of, going back to Mackie's question, if I would have predicted or literally wrote where we'd be, parts of my brain go, we should actually be bigger.
Yeah.
We should be a lot bigger where we are now. And I think, I don't want to delve into any things on the foundries at the moment, we could have made a lot more sacrifices from a people perspective and from a fun perspective, and we would be giant. We'd be big, we'd be getting close to like Medscape stuff. That's why I have in my head that we would be that. But we have made that conscious decision to say, no, that's not us. Let's grow in the right way.
Driving with the hood down, you don't go as fast.
No.
But it's a fabulous feeling, right?
And Lewis, going back to your question, the vision, Dan just reminded me there, year 2, so 9 years ago, we were talking about being on the Times Best Place to Work list, the Times Fast Track. Seeing them achieve them this year, last year, is brilliant because we've worked towards that for 9 years. And we set goals like that because we wanted to be a big, ambitious company. So that was the Times fastest growing companies list, the Times Fast Track. And then after a year, we were like, yeah, it's been a good year financially for the business, but it wasn't as much fun as last year. So how can we put a goal in place, a target, to make sure we're having fun? And so we looked at various options, and it was, well, if we're on the Times Best Place to Work list, we must be having fun. Cool. We thought. So we set that as a goal. So we've always set very ambitious goals that, at the time, you needed 50 employees to be on either of those, and we had literally 5 or 6 of us. So we were thinking big. way back then.
But you were also thinking about, you know, to continue your driving analogy, you weren't thinking of just stopping at, you know, a big box store. You were thinking about stopping at Leeds Castle or seeing the Cotswolds. You were thinking.
We didn't
about
want to do
things.
service stations. We wanted to enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think, sorry, last thing is, even this today, like this was, I remember we were doing a research 10 years ago, how do you become one of the best companies? And all the best companies had a yearly get-together with all their team where they did some sort of inspirational, motivational thing. And we were like, okay, well, let's start doing that. And
But you also make it fun.
Yes.
Right? So I want to come on to the values, the concept, because that caught my, when we first talked, I went, yeah, here's a bloke I could, you know, get to know and work with. Tell us about the values. Who dreamed it up? Where do they come from?
Well, it inadvertently came from me and my business partner, my previous business partner, because we weren't aligned, and that played on my mind. And when I set EMJ up, when I first started talking to Dan about joining it and buying shares, and he had the option to buy shares after a year and 2 years, I was very clear that I was never going to go 50-50 again, because you can't run a business like that, in my opinion. You need a leader that sets the direction, that sets the values and all of that sort of stuff. So I was very clear on that. And then I did a lot of work with Andy Sleet on the process, and we went through and we did countless sessions where we were trying to understand what my values were, what drove me, what got me out of bed in the morning, why I was doing what I was doing. And we came up with a list of words that just, you know, hardworking, you know, proactive, all of the words. And we realised that my version of hardworking might be different to yours or yours or yours. So we needed to define, what does hardworking mean? You know, is it I do my job really well in the hours I'm supposed to do? Is it I work 24 hours a day? Or, you know, what's your version of hardworking? So everyone knows what it is. So we added sentences to that. And then we said, well, look, have we got any examples of a 0 out of 10 and a 10 out of 10? And that's where the grandmasters came in. And then we still thought that 10 words was a bit too many, so we put it into the EMG. So the, you know, entire buy-in, look after your own shit, go the extra mile. And fundamentally, we believe that if you're bought into what we're trying to achieve and you really believe in it, and you then look after your own shit, and do your job and do it to the best of your abilities, and then you go the extra mile to help out your colleagues if they need it, and it's got to be in that order. You've got to do your job first before you help your colleagues, because otherwise your job doesn't get done. So we're all nice people, and everyone's first reaction is, oh, I'll go and help so-and-so out, and then your job doesn't get done. And that's when you end up being in the office late and stuff like that. So, you know, that's sort of where the values came from. We knew that we needed people aligned, and that's why, you know, maybe not the greatest expression, but it's hire slow, fire fast. You know, we really make sure we get the right people, because it just has such an impact.
I mean,
one bad apple.
You know, there's books like Good to Great where they talk about getting the right people on the bus. I mean, it's not bloody rocket science, is it? Right? People that we choose to hang out with socially are people that we get along with. Right? So why shouldn't we do the same thing at work?
Yeah.
Anyone want to jump in and talk about it? Go for it.
You've mastered that one, haven't you, Joe?
I mean, it's absolutely
I'm
right.
positive, inspiring as well.
Sorry, yes, sorry.
I got recruited to be the non-executive chairman of a company, and it was a big international search firm, and they offered it to me, and I was so flattered I took it. 2 months I resigned. I couldn't work with the people. Their values were certainly not aligned. So hiring slow, getting it right, because, you know, the implications are grim otherwise. Yes?
Just on that as well, I know one example from the past. I'm loud enough, don't
Can't hear you, Rob. Sorry.
One example from the past is actually the sales team, and I just would like you guys to speak on that a little bit, because I know that you did a little bit neglect that, and you actually went to hire fast, and then you regretted actually having hired fast, but not focused on the values. So could you talk a little bit in terms of the lesson you learned at that point and the action you took to set that right?
Well, you're still here.
Yeah, we're still learning.
Spencer, words hurt.
So I'm very rapidly ascertaining that the way this is working is Spenny makes the glib, dumb comment, and then I turn to Dan for something.
You must have realised that before now, Jonathan, surely.
So I can't make any dumb comments today. Super. Yeah, really good point. There was a definite, I think you said when you regretted it, massively regretted it. So give you guys a bit of context. We were working in an office in Broome Street. There was probably 8 of us in the office. Well, but we'd hired Sales guys literally thought, bums on seats will sell loads of stuff. It's simple as that. It's maths. One of them does 5 grand, one of them does 10 grand. This is easy. And we were getting loads in, and they were coming in, and they were awful. They were coming in, they were arseholes. They were coming in, and it was just like, whoa, actually, we're doing a bit more. But what was actually happening is it was so toxic in there that after a full day of work, we were still interviewing in the evening. So interviews would be 6 and 7 o'clock. Then 8 o'clock, Spencer and I would sit down, have a cup of tea, and go like, how's the day been? And we were bitching, and we were moaning, and we were just going, this guy did this guy did that. And we'd spend like an hour complaining about life at the end of the day and thinking, what the hell are we doing? This is madness. So we're literally going home. We're having a good day. We're growing a company in the right way. We're growing a company, and we're just ending the day with such negativity. So it didn't last. We had guys there doing 300-400K a year. We got rid of them. Which was a massive risk at the moment, at the time, because other guys weren't doing as much. We had one guy doing 30K who's still with us. I won't name any names.
Maxwell Roy.
Well, I won't name any names yet. So, but it was why I'm sort of waffling on about this is that was the point in the sales team where we identified, actually, you have to do this right. Because what happened after that is the toxic behavior removed itself. Max was one example that went from 30K to 300K the following year. And I think we grew by about 55% that year. Just from removing this negativity from the office, this thing, because it meant I could focus more on developing the people. I could focus on helping Spencer with growing the business. Everyone else, non-sales, was actually in a better place, and it just worked. So we stuck to that moving forward.
We had a period where we went from about 50 people in the team. 3 months later, we were down to 25 as we just got rid of all the negative people that weren't aligned with us. And then the following quarter, we had our best ever quarter with 25 people. So it's that whole analogy of if you've got a rowing boat with 8 people rowing in the same direction, you're going to go really bloody fast. If you've got someone in the back of the boat rowing in the opposite direction, it really slows you down. If you take that person out, even having 7 people in the boat, you're going to go quicker. So that was the concept.
It's about making the boat go faster.
While we're talking about values, I just want to make a comment. I've been working with you guys on the fringes, if you like, for 3 or 4 years, and I've run my own business consultancy. So probably over the course of my career so far, I've worked with 25, 30 organisations. I can honestly say this business is the only business that truly lives and commits to values. I've worked with lots of organisations. I've worked on projects to implement values, and most of those organisations pay absolute lip service. They put things on their website, they talk about building it into recruitment, they talk about developing people in line with values. This is the only business. I just want to make that point just for everyone, and now working a bit more closely with you over the coming months, it is genuinely the only business that does it properly, that really integrates it in its absolute DNA, and I think we see the proof of that.
Yeah, you're spot on. I'll take one more comment, Nabs. Go for it.
He said one.
Two, sorry. One for each of you. First one's for Spenny. Did you ever come close to giving up on your dreams, especially the early years when you didn't make revenue or you had problems with staff and whatever else? And if so, how did you deal with that?
Short answer is no. The closest I ever came was when I left my previous company. I set up my first business in 2008, and I was earning a really good salary as a sales guy. I just bought a new house. I just had my first child. A big old recession came in, and there was loads of redundancies everywhere, and the world was really worried about money. And I decided to quit that job and set up my first business. And my reasoning was, 1, I want to be in charge of my own destiny, and 2, it's never going to be bloody harder than doing it now. So the fact that I set it up in such a tough time has always made me think, well, it's only ever going to get easier. And it hasn't always got easier, to be fair, but that mindset was just keep going, it's only going to get easier.
And the question for you, Danny, and I guess for you as well, what's your favourite thing about working with Spencer?
We've only got about an hour left now, so...
Favorite thing about working with Spencer or the team?
Spencer.
Oh. Come back to him on that when he's had a chance to think.
I'm going to go, if I have to pick one thing, I think it's the insistence of having fun throughout this. So we talk about gold medal moments all the time. We've checked ourselves, I think it was, what year were we in, 2023? beginning of 2022, we had a conversation. We were like, we're not having as much fun as we used to. Fuck that, let's get on with it and make sure that every single month we're going through and booking gold medal moments. What's the things that make you full of life? What's the things that make you exhilarated? For me, it's sporting events, it's music events, it's helping people achieve really cool things, and then I can piggyback on the success and go, hey, I did a bit of that. They're the things that give me a massive buzz, and I think Spencer drills that you have to be having fun at work. You know, he interrupts our meetings, he's an idiot, all the rest of it, but it has to be like that, because if you're not having fun at work, when you're there for 10, 12 hours a day,
You don't want to be there. So that's a perfect segue. You've had all your questions now. So that's a good segue. Gold medal winning. So please explain that philosophy and where it comes from. And then I'd like, bang, 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 audience members just like a very quick what you think about being the gold medal winning philosophy. You up first, Benny.
Gold medal, I'm just massively competitive. I think I can be the best at anything, literally anything in the world. I could fly a plane better than you, in my head. And that's where my ambitions come from. It's delusional, but it means that everything I try and do, I either decide I'm doing this just for fun, or if I'm doing it properly, I'm going to be the best at it. And if I'm going to be the best at it, I therefore want to be a gold medal winner. And so it's just that competitiveness that's...
I suppose for me, it's like it's improvement. So we've all within us got this like huge potential, and one of the most depressing things in life is when you realise people don't reach their potential. So I won't name groups, but I chat to mates and I chat to them about their jobs and what they're doing, and I'm low 30s, so we've reached our low 30s.
Sorry.
So we've reached this point, and some of my old friends are sitting there doing the same job, and they're whinging about it, and they're complaining. It's like, well, you're in that position because you haven't chose to get better every day. Whereas if people like Kelly Holmes, who's on the stage, you've just got that relentless drive. How can I be a little bit better each day? What can I do a little bit better to be better than yesterday? How can I improve? What can I read? What can I learn? What can I do? How can I drive myself? Am I not loud enough? No? But now I'm going to double.
No one's heard a word you've said all afternoon.
Is that okay? Has no one heard anything I've said today? There were some absolute crackers in there as well. You guys have really missed out. Lost my train of thought. Gold medal winning, improvement. There we go.
Sounds better with a mic.
So, anyone in the audience want to shout out something about being a gold medal winner? Why? I love listening in on those Monday morning huddles. I love hearing that. I love hearing you all congratulate each other. It's delightful. Anyone?
Personal best. I always think someone's going to be successful, so it might as well be us.
Love it. Anyone else? What was that?
Out of your comfort zone.
Out of your comfort zone. Well, that's a segue. So, good on you.
Joe.
I mentioned at the beginning money as an indicator of success. And I think that if you ask most people, they'd say money. How many really successful people, judged by money, are good people? The kind of people that you'd like to spend time with. I've been very fortunate in my life to meet some amazing people, and I've introduced some to Spenny and Dan, and I think you'd agree. People like Scott Parazynski flew 5 space shuttle missions, he's an Olympian, he's summited Everest, he's a doctor, he's the only person I let fly my aeroplane. He is the most gentle, humble, kind human being. Let's think about sport. We like sport. I'm the cross I carry is I'm a Spurs supporter. And I've seen players come through our club. On one side, you had Gareth Bale, who trained apparently that he was the first one there in the morning, the last one home at night. I met Bale a few times. He was, when you'd first talk to him, he'd immediately drop his head and sort of self-deprecating laugh. And then we had Dele Alli, who I think was probably one of the most gifted footballers I've ever seen. He was outrageous. Unfortunately, he liked the trappings of success. He didn't like the hard work. He didn't like pushing himself to be the best. And where is he now? He may never play another game of football, and he's got a cocaine habit, so the story goes. So let's talk a little bit about that, being your personal best?
Wonder where you were going, mate.
So let's go with you. Because we're not going to get anything sensible out of it. We've established that.
So my workload's just increased slightly. So you want us to go into personal best and why it's important? Is that too much now? No. Right. So personal best. It's too loud. Do you know? I don't want to. I want to do this. Can I get this fixed? No. Can't get the staff. So, personal best. Why is it important? I think it's important in every single element. So, one of the things I'm always trying to do is I'm trying to improve not just my numbers, but improve those around me. I can be demanding of my team, but I can also be an arsehole sometimes. I know that, but I need to get feedback from them. Is it the battery's ever gone? We'll swap around when we're doing that. So I think why personal best, and Rob mentioned this earlier, are important. They're the easiest way to track your own personal success. Whether I can run the 100 metres in 15 seconds isn't relevant if I compare myself against Usain Bolt. But what I can do is I can make a plan where I want to run it in 14 seconds. Then I need to go for 13, then 12, then 11. Then I'm becoming my personal best. Rob's impressed by my maths. I'm running my personal best and I'm getting better. But the reason I love personal best is it's an easy way of monitoring and making sure that I'm progressing every single day.
Spenny, success. What's your indicator?
I just measure it against myself for everything. So, you're talking about the footballers and stuff. I remember talking to Andy Sleep very early on, and we were talking about what success was for EMJ. And I don't think money ever came into that conversation at all. It was about the go-to place for healthcare professionals. And a line that Andy uses is, if you go for something, success comes at right angles. So don't try and build a company to be rich and valued at a high price. Build it to be the best healthcare company, and the money will come. So you don't have to worry about that bit. And so for me, I'm just constantly looking at how I can enjoy it. Every day I want to be enjoying it. I measure every single meeting I'm in every day and score it out of 10. How much am I in my flow? Because if I'm in my flow at least 7 out of 10, I'm enjoying my day. If I'm not, I look at it and go, do I need to be in that meeting? Could I have done it differently? How can I do it better? Can I delegate it to someone else? And then I constantly push myself in not necessarily like a 100 meters type way, but I'm always looking to do things like this and say, right, this was a really good event this year, best one yet. How can we do it better next year? And I want to make sure that everything I do is better next time. So it's just personal best from that side is how do we do it better next time?
Interesting. Shout outs from the audience. What's an arbiter of success for you? Go for it.
I think as a team, and it's not directly into success, but it's all going to feed into it, we have to be comfortable giving each other feedback. And I think some areas of the EMJ are really, really strong in that, and some just aren't. And even the ones that are strong can always be better at that. The challenge is that some people struggle to
Something I said.
what they're trying to say properly and the feedback that they want to give. They might not feel like they've got the words or experience to be able to give feedback in a way that is positive, even if they're trying, when the intention's really good but perhaps doesn't land well or the recipient isn't receiving it well. And I think we need to focus on that a little bit more across EMJ as a whole. But for example, Dan, you're my direct line manager. I feel 100% comfortable giving you any feedback now. But I wouldn't have felt like that initially when I first joined. And obviously we have, as we start to grow, we are getting loads of new starters. And I think sometimes we take for granted how comfortable we are with that feedback. And that when new people step into this environment, it's scary. And it is hard to deal with initially. And that can sometimes look as a negative reflection on their values when it's not. It's just that we need to give people time to get used to it. And perhaps some external training or some kind of not therapy, but you know what I mean, like emotional support to be able to deal with that side of the business, because I think we're really good at processes and, very much like the commercial side, growing the business and stuff, but that side I think we need to work a little bit on because that's going to feed into the success. So just from a question to both of you, do you feel confident that the people around you feel 100% comfortable giving you honest feedback?
I can answer that first. Can you guys hear me now? Am I better? Yay! So I heard the second half of that question. So no is the simple answer. I think I have a core group who have worked with me for lots of years and are willing to give me direct feedback, knowing that they can tell me whatever they want. I know it comes from the right place. That's not me. Secondly, I think there's a layer down then of people I'm not as familiar with who maybe are fearful of giving me direct feedback because of the potential repercussions, thinking this might lead to something. And then there's a group probably in here I just don't know well enough. So I'm aware enough to know that isn't perfect. What I always try and make clear that I can literally learn from every single person in here and I want to. So if someone, and this is why being in the office builds that trust a lot more. So I have more interactions with you because you sit a few desks away from me 5 days a week and you have done for however many years you've been here. But if I'm having a lot more engagements with you, then I'm more likely to get feedback, give feedback to you, and get feedback from you. So now how can we improve it? I'm open to many, many options, but having days like this is good, but it's once a year. How can we do this on a more regular basis, and how can you make it clear to people that actually, even on a Monday morning, I got this feedback from someone I don't normally talk to, and actually it was really, really useful. So the more we talk about that, and the more we build trust through different ways, and lunches, and going to the gym together, all of those little things, I think improve us massively as a business. Because sometimes when someone's left the business, they haven't left because of real things. They've left because of perceived things. And reality becomes perception when we don't dig into it. So we need to keep asking those questions to think, is this actually how they think of me and how they perceive me, or actually have I misunderstood something?
Do you want to add anything, Spenny?
Yeah, I would say that we hire really nice people generally, nearly always. And because they're really nice people, they don't often feel comfortable, or don't sometimes feel comfortable saying, Kelly, you did that wrong, or you could have done that better by doing this. Because they're like, oh, good job, Kelly, well done, I'm really nice. I don't want to upset you. So I think we've got to get into the mindset that I'm a bit long in the tooth. If Dan's done something wrong, I just tell him he's done something wrong because I know that he'd want to improve. And so if I don't tell him, I'm doing a disservice by not telling him. If he does something that annoys me and he doesn't know he's doing it, if I don't tell him, he's going to keep annoying me, and he won't want to annoy me. Well, he does sometimes, but most of the time he doesn't want to annoy me. So it's my duty to try and help him get better. And so by not giving feedback to someone, you're not helping them get better. You're not helping them become a gold medal winner. And I think that all comes back to, if you've read 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, the first layer you've got to get right in any team is trust. Because as you said, some people don't feel comfortable with it. Well, if you trust me, you know that I'm only saying it because I want to help you get better. Not because I'm being an arsehole or I'm a bit of a whatever. I'm saying it because I want to help you get better. And if I say it in a good way, it's because I'm having a good day. If I say it in a bad way, because I'm having a bad day, you still know that I'm saying it for the right reasons because you trust me.
So the key thing, how do you and I have talked in the past about Cook, a medical company I work with that had a magnificent culture, caring. It all came down from Bill Cook, the founder, who was a great guy. His autobiography is called Ready, Fire, Aim, and if you can get it, it's a great read. It's all about how one guy with just a vision built a $3 billion business. Bill died, his number 2, Kem, who was also a prince, retired, and the guy who took over, who was a lawyer, took a business that was doing $3 billion a year into a business that's not even hitting $1 billion a year. All the people are leaving, and it all comes down to culture. They scaled the business to 14,000 strong, and the lowliest person knew they could go up to Bill Cook, call him Bill, and say, I think such and such is wrong. From my perspective, it's like the guy that Kennedy met at NASA. What do you do? I'm putting a man on the moon. So I agree with you. I think this company's got something unique. How many strong are you now? What's the head count?
Just short of 80.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you scale it to 800 and not lose that culture? Because that's the magic in the bottle, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges for us. And we take people out for lunches. We do all sorts of stuff that might appear a little bit random at the time, but it's a plan that we've got in place to build trust with you guys.
All right, well, let's be trusting now. You said that you take it in a good place. Shout out, any of you, suggestions. What could they do to make this even better for everyone, right? And we're going to come on to personal development next. Anyone? What was that?
Get a pool table.
Get a pool table. Okay.
More consistent communication.
Anyone else? And I expect you to follow up with him afterwards. Tell him what you mean by that. Anyone
Be
else?
consistent with that communication, Joe.
And by the way, if anything that you want to say, Scotty, anything that take the mic to him, please, because he's very softly spoken. I will hold them accountable.
Sorry, just joking. Keep doing things like this. Being yourselves, showing yourselves, being authentic helps us all be open and helps us all build trust together. So, crack on.
And I tell you, I feel I can say anything to these guys. I know their deepest, darkest secrets, and I do. And if they don't do what they have said today, I will hold them accountable, because this is magical. You are doing something, and as a doctor, let me tell you, the provision of high-quality educational material is food and wine to us, and you do it very, very well. The quality of what you do, the graphics, everything, the way that you communicate with people. The team that I've worked with on CME and Pocket, you're bloody good at what you do, right? So don't lose that culture. Let's talk.
Just before you run on to that, there was one thing I think is worth making really, really clear. When you're the newest in the door, you've actually got a better opportunity to see the improvements than some of us who've been here for a long time. So I think, yeah, we need to do something really, really clear to really drive that. So the month you're in, the second month you're in, the third month in, you're coming in new to this. You're looking at the things we do and thinking, what the bloody hell are they doing that for? That seems really stupid. But you can either sit there and not do anything about it and become like the rest of us who don't then see it, or you can challenge it. And that's the thing I think we need to encourage, but you guys need to do as well, and say, this isn't working, or why are we doing it like this? Keep asking those questions. We've got all of these mediums and all of these different channels. The other thing I was going to add, just because I was challenged on it a few weeks ago in one of our one-to-ones with, well, we're open here, with NABS. And NABS was saying we don't talk in our one-to-ones about things to get better. So, simple solution there. We then change the agenda, tweak the agenda, so that at the end of each meeting or during each meeting, we're looking, what's one thing we could do better each week, or I could have done better that week. It forces you to look for the improvements. And when you're forced to look for improvements, funny enough, you get better. It sounds simple, but
what's
it is.
measured is treasured.
Yeah.
Simple as that, isn't it?
So Cook looked after people very well, right? They weren't the best payers, but they really looked after their team. And I used to love going to their big events, 10,000, 12,000 people at a big hotel. Fantastic fun. Personal development, advancement, and so on. I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Treat people well and they flourish. Tell us what, what you're going to do to drive for personal development so that all these wonderful folks can be everything that they want to be.
As much as we can. It's the whole cliche of, what if we pay for someone's training and they leave, versus what if you don't pay for their training and they stay. We want to create gold medal winners. We want to have the best team possible. From the very moment you guys have your interviews and have the values interviews, we talk about the quadrant of, we want people that have got the values and get results. And if you're in that box, we'll do all we can to keep you. Promotions, pay rises, empowerments, whatever it is, until you're in that top corner as a gold medal winner. Now, we can only do so much with the funds we've got available, so it is tied into how we're doing revenue-wise and stuff like that. But we've put in, again, listening to feedback, we've put in things like our minimum wages, so you know what you're going to earn in year 1, 2, and 3. We do things like the Summer Ball. We've paid for people to do their exams. We're doing stuff to get on the best place of work list. A little bit comes back to we need to know what you guys want, because we do things that we think you'll want, but you might not want it. So the more we can hear from you, it's got to be a win-win. It's got to be, we don't want to just improve you if it doesn't help EMJ. We want to win together. So if you can come up with something that's going to help EMJ get better and help you, why wouldn't we do it?
Let me tell you that as a surgeon, I trained people my entire career. And nothing gave me greater pleasure than to see one of my trainees go on and do better than me and be a better surgeon. It's great fun. And a dear friend of mine who died way too young, Bill Metzfield, he started a company called Gannett that published USA Today. I don't know if any of you know that publication. His secretary She didn't have a degree. She ended up becoming the chief executive of USA Today because, you know, with his support and personal development, she became everything she could be. So I won't ask you to do that today, but please dialogue, Dan, because he left
just on that,
everything
you talked about inflection points earlier.
Yeah.
And the way it was described to me was when you start up a business, you can sort of control everything. You can put it all around, your arms around it, and can keep an eye on everything and make sure it's what's going on. To get to the next level, when you get to 50 people plus, I just can't keep my eye on everything. So I want to have people in there that are the best at their jobs, so that I become basically a conductor, and you're playing all of the instruments. So I need you to be the best pianist or whatever instrument you're
let
playing.
me throw out that then liberates you, Spencer, to do what is in your flow, which
Shiny
is
toys.
bright, shiny toys.
Yeah.
It's what you want to do. It's why we're all here today, right? Dan, anything to add?
Well, similar thing came up in an interview recently. They were saying, you know, what do we do? And you start listing the things. And we do. I think we do a lot. I think we try and do as much because we want you guys to get better and better all the time in terms of the training setups, the workshops, these sort of days, doing quarterly planning to get us all together. So I think we do stuff. We need more feedback in terms of what more we should be doing. Because one of the things I've realised personally is sometimes we get a recommendation, we actually put it in place, and then people don't take advantage of it for whatever reason. So then someone comes into the company and then says, "Oh, why don't we do that?" And we do that. I think we did the EPNS did the survey recently, and one of the suggestions was if you stay late, you should have access to a budget to buy pizzas or buy dinner in the evening. And I was like, we do. We did this during COVID. I remember doing the exercise during COVID where we were getting everyone back to the office, or by lots of back to the office, we put the EMJ bar in, we did the table tennis for Andy to get him back in, and all of this. And one of the suggestions then was, well, actually, I do late evenings at work, and so I'll get hungry, and then I go in for dinner, whereas if I had this in the office. So it's just that we need that constant challenge, and you guys need that constant challenge, because some of this stuff is in place. So it's just a reminder to keep bringing these ideas forward, direct to us, your line manager, whatever they are, because some of them are already in place. We've already signed off some of this stuff. It's just sitting there and it's latent. That's not the right word, but never mind. But it's just sitting there.
He doesn't know what it means. Anyway.
I was looking at you more than him.
Right word.
Yeah, so
but it goes back to Joe's point about we need to keep communicating this stuff as well. So
yeah.
the stuff we put in place, if you don't know about it, that's on us.
Let's communicate. We've talked about personal opportunities. What about business opportunities? Where do you think what's the bright, shiny toys that have your attention spent?
Loads of them. The big ones at the moment are obviously looking at Rob's smiley face, the USA. We're launching over in the USA this year. We've got an office address over there. The plan is as soon as it's viable, we'll have an office that we work in over there. And so that's one very big shiny toy. That for me, doubles the size of our market opportunity. So it's a huge opportunity for all of you guys if you want to go and work there to potentially go and do that. CME, you mentioned earlier, again, pretty much doubles us in size, in opportunity. We looked at that 3 years ago and we weren't doing anything. Last year we did maybe 1% of our revenue from that. This year it will be a bigger percentage. But that's, you look at some of the companies that I know from ex-colleagues and stuff like Radcliffe and Touch, they do 60% of their revenue from CME, so it's a huge opportunity for us. Some of you will have noticed, and again, maybe not the best communication, but I wanted to do it as a little tester for today. We've got a job board live on our website. Anyone seen that?
You've all seen it, right?
So that's something we've been working on for a little while. It's a work in progress, but we sort of pushed it to get live for this so that we could talk about it. It's just a revenue opportunity for us. So someone else hosts it. If anyone goes on it, clicks on it, we get revenue coming in from it, which means we can reinvest it back into the business to grow other things and potentially have a recruitment division down the line. We've got I'm meeting with a guy from a multi-billion-pound firm next Tuesday to talk about doing a joint venture with them in business intelligence. So again, very little work for us. We would host their content. If someone buys it from our website, we get 50% of the revenue from that. So that's an area we think there's a huge opportunity for us to move into in business intelligence. And yeah, there's probably another 50 or so that are further down the line that we're constantly thinking about, that chop and change and the priority lists go up and down. But we have to keep our focus on the core business as well to make sure we're delivering on that to fund some of these.
So I want to be conscious of time. I'm sure you guys are all getting hungry. I believe we're supposed to wrap at, we got a slightly late start. I believe we're supposed to wrap at 12:45, but maybe we can go on maybe an extra 5 minutes or so. I don't want to keep you from your lunch. So lots of rosy stuff happening, CME, the good old US of A. And that's all fine and dandy, but the world's a complicated place, right? Wars, political chaos, climate change, economic ups and downs. You've mentioned that medicine, healthcare is relatively inflation and recession-proof. What are the challenges that EMJ will or might face, and how do you mitigate them? Do you want to go, because he probably doesn't know what mitigate means?
I'm just going to Google it quickly. It's recruitment. It's finding more of you guys. I was about to swear there. Oh, get in trouble. It's really simple. If we had, like the previous question was about what the opportunities are, we need you guys as well. Without you guys, we're not going to get anywhere. So we need to work together. We need you guys to be speaking when you're speaking to your editorial contacts, when you speak to your marketing contacts, your sales contacts, your publishing contacts, whatever you're doing, we need you to be bringing ideas forward. How can we improve? And then what are the bigger opportunities? The more we learn from you, the better. But what are the challenges is finding more of you guys and developing you guys at the current rate. The market will look after itself. What we sell and how we sell it and stuff, that in my head that's simple. If you get the right people and lots of them in the same place, bouncing against each other, bouncing ideas off each other, motivating each other, inspiring each other, the actual business, the boring side, the numbers and all that stuff, sorry Justin, all the boring stuff like that, it just looks after itself. It's a bit like how we're looking to do CME. If you looked at starting a CME company, most people would say, how do you start a CME company? You do it the same as everyone else, that it's stowed, it's stable, you contact them and you hope that someone's going to come back to you, and they never do. We're going to do CME differently because that's the EMJ way. We're going to do it in a much more innovative way, much more aggressive, much more lively. So challenges is just speed of recruitment and getting people with the values in. Everything else looks after itself.
So you encourage people, right, to refer potential employees. I remember seeing that. You do have a system for doing that, right? How successful has that been?
We've got a room full of gold medal winners. We've got a room full of good people, excellent people, people who have bought into the values, but
chances are, Dan, that the people that each of them are friendly with are similar people, right? People tend to associate with like-minded individuals. I'm sure you've all got big networks, right? How about if everyone committed that they're going to bring you people in the course of the next year?
Works for me.
All right.
Works for Joe.
He put his feet up.
Right. Well, there you go. Very easy. You've all got friends. Say, hey, why don't we work together? It would be fun.
I suppose the thing that jumps out from that, going to, I can't remember whose comment it was earlier about being open, is if you guys love working here, but there's a reason that you wouldn't refer someone to here, that'd be great for us to know as well. That'd be awesome for us to know, because if we know that, we can help mitigate that situation. Yeah, so again, it's communication, isn't it? The more we know, the more we understand, the more we can adapt to that. But there is a good opportunity there if you've got friends, friends and family and all the rest of it who can bring in. It's worked well before.
And just on that note of the opportunities and the challenges, recruitment is by far our biggest challenge, because we have got so much opportunity. We could take on as many people as we can find. We're fishing from a much smaller pond because we recruit by the values. But just to give you some examples, we've got Pamela joining us as of next month, 3 days a week as Chief People Officer, who will be helping with the org chart, the succession plans, the progression plans, salary banding, bonuses, just to make that gold medal winning as well. We've got Justin Levitt at the back there joining us as Chief Content Officer, who's going to put his specialism. Justin was one of the partners at Media 10 that ran the Ideal Home Show, Grand Designs, loads of magazines. So he's got really good experience in that. So we're bringing in people everywhere we can, trying to bring in more people at the top as well to help spread the workload for me and Dan and Justin. But we just need good people all around. So any recommendations, love to have them.
So I've already got a bunch of questions that were sent in. And can we try and do some really quick answers, you know, so that we
I'll try not to waffle too much.
Yeah.
We'll try and be laconic.
So Darren has sent enough in, actually, to take us through to about 2 o'clock. But so quickies, I'll give you 2 from him. What's the vision for the academy? I want quick answers. What's the vision for the academy and plans for a big summer ball abroad anytime soon? Right.
Plans for the academy is to create more homegrown players. So, recruit young people straight out of uni or don't even have to have been to uni that we can train up. That means you guys all get lifted up in position, so they're good to great. You'll get promoted because there's people underneath you, and we know they've got the values. If someone joins us and they've only been with us for a few months and they're very junior, and we find out the values aren't right, it doesn't have such a big impact if we get in a director and the values aren't right. So it helps us get people in and push them up that way.
And summer ball abroad?
Love to. We're going to do, I don't know if it's common knowledge yet actually, but we're thinking of doing a 2-day one next year, an extra day next year, with more keynote speakers, more like the sort of GrowthCon 10X thing. Could we do it abroad? Yeah, maybe. Make it a win-win, Darren.
Ideas.
Come up with a one-page plan that's a win-win.
So, Dan first. This is from Andy. Which companies, individuals do you learn from in terms of understanding how EMJ can turn into a unicorn? Dan first.
Probably two layers. One is those at the top of their game, so the best sports stars, the best business people that I read, I listen to their books, I go and see them where I can. That's the top layer, if I'm going to keep this answer short. The second layer is people who are doing what I do, but at a better level. So it's 2 layers of people, meeting them, taking them for lunch, hanging out with them, spending time with them. You can learn, if I learn how to do that job, and then I've got the vision at the top. So that's both sides.
Pretty much the same, yeah. Networking, so meeting people that are running billion-pound businesses. So I did the podcast with Max Bittner, who's run 2 unicorn businesses that I was at uni with. So Martin Sorrell I did a podcast with that's run 2 multi-billion-pound businesses. Grant Cardone I've met a few times. Me and Nabs met him in his office a couple of years back. It's just meeting these people and finding out. What I find really interesting is, yes, they've got a skill set that's allowed them to build a unicorn business, but fundamentally they're all the same as us. They've just had a relentless drive to succeed. And then listening to podcasts and webinars.
And a value system. That's certainly my experience of meeting these sort of people. From Sketty, timeline, outcomes for Project Harmony, and what are the next steps to grow CME? For example, setting up a separate CME division, new website.
I'll do Project Harmony. Pamela is working on it. We've already finalised the first part of that, which was the top line for the C-suite moving forward, which will be implemented July the 1st. We wanted to get that bit right first so that those people that are going to be involved with the different departments can then have the conversation. So it's ongoing. We're hoping to have it, well, it's a 6-month project probably, but we'll do it in stages. So each month you should see progression on that.
And Dan, you mentioned CME already, but can you expand a little bit?
You know me, I don't really do details, but yeah. So what we're going to need for CME this year is all about getting more proof of concepts. Next year is really about launching it officially. Oh, there you are.
I
saw you
can't
cut,
see him.
your hair
Looking
for
for him.
today
There you are,
as well.
over
aren't
there.
you?
I know.
Yeah, very good. So yeah, the CME is going to be a new team, dedicated team, dedicated firewall for all those who know what that is. We're going to have obviously all the processes in place, different sales teams on it. We're going to grow it. We're going to look to start growing it properly next year. We will need a new website of sorts, or in addition to ours. It will be its own entity, and that again just creates more opportunities, more success for us, more money, more revenue to do things like this and to feed into progression goals. So yeah, I'm really excited about CME next year.
And the summer ball in Ireland.
Yeah.
To be sure.
So we've been looking forward. Let's look back with a question from Jack. What was the biggest challenge in year 1?
People wearing trainers. No, biggest challenge in year 1, probably cash flow. You know, there's the old saying, turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. We were booking money, but we were trying to grow continuously. So we were spending money, and you get a bill or you send an invoice out, and it's got 14-day payment terms, and they pay you in 90 days. So we were spending the money thinking it's coming in 14 days. And then the money didn't come in 14 days, it came in 19 days. So there are countless occasions me and Dan didn't take money at the end of the month so we could pay the team, make sure they were paid. And then on quite a few occasions, we actually put money back into the business because we just didn't have the cash there. We were confident it was coming because we made the revenue, but the cash was just a killer. Dan,
I'll give a very sales-specific answer, because that's my role at the time. We were trying to sell to companies with no proof of what we'd done, no examples of what we'd done, no history of what we'd done, and no justification for them to really work with us. So it was hard, because people would be on the phone and say, oh, great, can you send me an example? And you were like, I can't. Or they'd say, can you send me stats from the last one? I didn't have it. Can you send me some proof of concept? I didn't have it. So it was bloody hard, and the conversion rate was super low, but it just meant we needed to up the activity there. It did teach me the value of painting a picture for clients, though. So that was probably my biggest challenge, actually convincing them.
Because I was bloody good at sales, Jack.
Partly it was relationships. It was actually building trust up with them. So I remember a lot of the deals I did in year one were about really digging into painting these pictures. So in my head, I could see what the product would look like. These are the KOLs, this is the topic area, this is how they're going to use it, this is how it's going to help them internally and stuff. So I'd paint that in my head and then keep the email super short so they just wouldn't ask. So hopefully they had that picture painted in their head and then just went, I'll go on enthusiasm. We know that we do similar to what a lot of people do out there. So you need the added relationships, you need the added wow factor in order to get people over the line.
So, Sketty again, what are the plans for the new Team EMJ idea? Will this involve a budget for organised socials, interdepartmental bonding? Appropriate bond.
Joe, do you want to answer that? Yes. What are the plans? This is Joe's baby, that's why I'm asking Joe.
Got me on the spot. So be bringing back what we used to call committees. That is the last time you'll hear that word being said. But looking at some of the initiatives that we had before, bringing it together in one place. So we are more aligned. So we're keeping it consistent with our goals. And will there be a budget? Yes.
Okay.
If I prepared, that would have been a lot better, but there we go.
Does that answer your question, Alex?
If not,
there'll be more consistent communication from Joe later, I'm sure.
So we're going to wrap up in a couple of seconds, but before we do, I'm going to ask Spencer and Dan to each, which is what I just whispered to them, I'm going to
Loads
ask
of
them
time to prep, yeah?
Yeah. In his case, he probably needs a fair bit longer. For a closing thought, like a takeaway, something really meaningful. Don't hold your breath. Dan, would you like to go first?
Something really meaningful. I love this place. I love working here. One of the easiest things about working here is I have no desire to work anywhere else. So I always just look at how I can improve this, how I can get better in this role, because this is, the more I grow, the more that you guys grow. But I've got a massive, I suppose the thing I take from all of these sessions is I've got a load of pride with what we've created and what we've done. And it sort of fits into little snippet stories where, like, there's moments I've had over the years where I look back and think, oh, they've achieved that success as a result of, like, the work we've been doing together. Like, I remember Darren picked me up in his Alfa Romeo Spider. He picked me up and I took my son outside and we went into his car and he was buzzing. And we'd set a plan to how he was going to buy that car. And then Nabby took me, I went to her flat and we walked around her flat and it got me really fucking hell, we've done this together. Like, almost felt like part of that journey. Max I remember having that Gauchos, and Max, I think, billed more during that Gauchos lunch than he'd done in a whole year. It just happened that these deals came in. And they're the things that's why pride is really important to me and in what we've created, but excitement about, well, what's next? So every time we talk about the goals that you guys have, I'm like, fucking hell, I could be part of that. I can piggyback on that and really ride on that success.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit different in that I don't really reflect on what we've achieved. I love the fact we've achieved it, and at the time I celebrate it, but I don't really care about that anymore. That's done and dusted. I'm always like, what are we doing next? And I was using ChatGPT, is it, the other day for some stuff, and I was looking at stuff, and I asked who was the go-to place for healthcare professionals. And it came up with a list of different companies. Said there's no one. There's companies that do journals. There's companies that do platforms. There's communities. So I started looking into some of these companies, and one of them was called Doximity. And I think it had started 11 years ago, so same time as us, and it works with healthcare professionals and pharma, putting content between the two. And it's worth £11 billion. And I'm just sitting there going, bloody hell, we could be doing £11 billion because that's what we do. So for me, there's such a huge opportunity for EMJ, and we need you guys to help us achieve it. You know, we probably need a room full of 800 people, not 80 people, to achieve all of this stuff. So it's just, the take home from me is you guys are in a fantastic position, in my opinion, to grow with the business.
Well, my closing comment would be, a shroud has no pockets, right? Don't take it with you. When you breathe your last, and I've been with a lot of people who've breathed their last, you're not thinking about what's in your bank account. You're thinking about, if you think that little hyphen on the tombstone between the two dates, that is characterized by the people you've interacted with and the things that you've done with your life. And I have personally been involved with, I haven't told you the number, 31 companies that I've either started, helped build, or served on the board of. I have never met a company like this, and I'm just going to tell you one thing. During COVID, Spenny, Dan, and Dan asked me to help develop some protocols of what we should do. And one of the things that got talked about was welfare checks, people checking in on each other. And one day, I got a phone call. And the person who made that phone call knows who it was. I was so touched, because I live on my own. I was so touched that some young person gave a damn about me. So don't lose that. Don't lose that. Financial success, yeah, that's important. But this, don't lose it. Don't lose your values, because that's why you're different. And also, I want to leave you with this one thought. Remember what you are doing. You're disseminating medical information so schmucks like me can do a better job to help people like your mum and dad, or your brother, your sister, or your child. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Have a wonderful lunch. Have an amazing time tonight. And I would say don't drink too much, but we know that's a waste of time. Have a lovely day, everyone. And
Before you go, big round of applause for Jonathan, but Dan has got a few words to say afterwards. Get a quick picture of us together.